Good morning. Wow, Texas, it's massive. I think New Zealand fits into Texas like 3-4 times over. So thank you for your big hospitality and super excited to be here at the first inaugural RevUP for Revizto. So I'm going to be talking about codifying coordination. At Warren and Mahoney, we pride ourselves on our technical and design abilities. And I'm going to talk about how Revizto made their impact magnified and changed everything that we do. But before I do that, a little bit about myself. 30 years in the industry this year. Maybe I've got good genes and I haven't aged as well as the industry has. But when I started in the industry, I started on a 2D drawing board. T-square, ink pen, plotters, all that kind of stuff. I imagined one day that we'd be using a tool, a computer digital tool, that could link a digital model to drawings and we could communicate with contractors on site. I come from a family of contractors. My grandfathers, my father, they're all builders. They assemble things. I've been assembling things all my life. And with BIM, for the first time ever, we were able to prototype a building and then imagine that, perfect it, and then prefabricate it and put it on site. So, at Warren and Mahoney, how are we using Revizto? But before we get on to how we're using Revizto, what is Warren and Mahoney? Warren and Mahoney is a team of creators and makers. We're designers, we're architects, we're interior designers, we're landscape professionals, and we're BIM professionals. But before we get into that, how did we start? 65 years ago, Warren and Mahoney was formed by two passionate creators and makers. Our senior founder, Sir Miles Warren, he was the creative genius behind Warren and Mahoney. He pioneered the postmodernist movement in New Zealand and constructed or imagined, more importantly, most of New Zealand's most iconic buildings. But his business partner, Maurice, and I liken myself to Maurice the most, he was our technical inspiration behind the creativity. Taking what was imagined by Maurice in watercolor drawings and turning those into technical documents that contractors use to construct these visions for the built environment around us. So 65 years later, we're 400 staff, 37 principals. I'm one of the 37 principals. We have 8 design studios in Australia and New Zealand. Work across 2 countries. There's quite a big distance between Australia and New Zealand. It's actually further across than half of North America. So we're not just an island, we're a nation. And our senior founder was knighted before he passed away. We're a passionate team. We're a passionate team about our environment. This is our country. And part of that passion aligns with our sustainability initiatives. By the end of this decade, we're going to be designing our buildings with 50% less energy from a carbon perspective, but more importantly, 40% less waste and less embodied carbon. And I'm going to talk to you how Revizto is enabling this vision. It's a bold vision, and Revizto gave us the tool to realize our vision by pulling everything together. So what kind of buildings do we do in New Zealand? We work across a broad typology of buildings. This is just a small subsection of the 300 projects I'm going to talk about how we codify coordination on. I've selected these because they're notable buildings. The first one, Hikirua Archives, is a bespoke building never been created ever before in the world. It's designed to be resilient to withstand an 8.5 magnitude earthquake. It's built on a fault line. It's built on the ring of the Pacific Fire, the major fault line in the world. And it holds our national treasures, priceless artifacts from the dawn of New Zealand's history. Revizto was the key platform that enabled a digital twin of that building to be prototyped in design and then now being constructed in construction. It's clash-free, 0 clashes, and the information that we've captured in Revizto is targeted to be used for a full digital twin when finished in 2 years' time. The knowledge we gained from this project flowed into the next project on screen, the new Dunedin Hospital. It's the largest project ever to be constructed in New Zealand as one singular project. It's 90,000 square meters. That's almost 1 million square feet. And the Revizto platform in that has pulled together a team of over 150 professionals to coordinate a clash-free model ready for construction. Now, I've mentioned clash-free a couple of times. I've worked in the industry where most people say clash-free is not possible. It is absolutely possible. And prefabrication off the model is being done in New Zealand. I'm going to show you how we do it. The other 4 buildings there represent a scaling and typology. We use Revizto across multiple building platforms, whether it be a residential building or whether it be a high-performance educational facility for the next generation of construction professionals. The Otago Polytech building is now educating their new future professionals on our digital model that we provided through the Revizto platform, and they've changed their course curriculum to match our workflows. So for a moment in time, we are now actually influencing the entire industry for the future. The Te Pai Convention Centre was one of our first Revizto projects. I'm going to call it Metro Sports because I'm not going to make a hash of the Indigenous Maori name for. Yeah, I'm not going to go for that Maori name there, so I'll pass on that one. And then the Christchurch Cathedral. Christchurch Cathedral is one of the most iconic historical buildings in the country. What's unique about that is the laser scanning technology combined with Revizto allowed us to capture not only the existing broken building after the Christchurch earthquakes, so we can use it as a basis for the construction of the frame that's going to make the site safe to allow our contractors to get in there and to actually reimagine the building under modern building codes. Something unique about that was the point cloud itself. We captured using Boston Dynamics Spot, the robot dog. Nobody was allowed in the site. The only people or the only living things that have been in the site for a decade were pigeons. So it was a very dangerous site. And being able to pull it all together in Revizto has really helped us with that project. So in our workflow looks a bit like this. We start with a model. Our design team's very passionate about making the models as accurate as possible. We then leverage the dashboards to communicate quickly. We leverage the weekly reporting. The weekly reporting gives all of our collaborators, we have over 2,000 collaborators in our Revizto platform at Warren and Mahoney. We have 200 licenses of Revizto, but that scales by a factor of 10 out to our collaborators. That's giving us a source of truth that allows us to connect our 2D designs directly from the model. So our drawings aren't faked, they're actually from the model and they're embellished and communicated via Revizto. So our journey wasn't one of jumping into the technology from the start. Our journey was an exploration and an evolution of perfecting the technology. When I joined at Warren and Mahoney, we'd just had the most major earthquakes in the world. It had flattened and decimated an entire city. I came back from Sydney, Australia, to work on rebuilding a city that I'm pretty passionate about. You only get moments in time where you get a chance to reimagine an entire city once. So I took this opportunity to leverage all of my knowledge, leverage the technology to transform Warren and Mahoney. Day one at Warren and Mahoney looked something a bit like this. We had MicroStation, we had ProjectWise, and we had siloed teams arguing over misinformation in 2D. Day two, we had RevUP, and the conversation started with our project teams. Flash forward to kind of what I imagine, day three, a year later, we had RevUP, Navisworks, and I'm building a coordination platform in Jira. And then this has started us on a journey of discovery of how can we reimagine our entire workflow. Kind of day four, I met the guys at Revizto, and we had a different conversation about the power of linking 2D, 3D, and information together around a combined single platform. Navisworks was stuck in the middle there for a bit, and for a reasonably long time, 5 years, that was kind of our perfect marriage. RevUP, Revizto, Navisworks. During this 5-year period, we delivered 300 projects throughout the country. We had 1,500 collaborators, 5,000 reports, 50,000 drawing sheets, nearly 2 million issues, and 5 terabytes of data in the cloud. We had transformed our business. Partway in this journey, as we're getting used to using the cloud and a collaborative way of working, COVID hit. And New Zealand went into a full-scale lockdown. No one in, out of the country. It was a nightmare. But we had been prepared. We'd become accustomed to working in the cloud, and it was second nature to ourselves. We moved our entire business from desktop, from server-based workflows, to the cloud overnight. It's something that hasn't been done around the world, to my knowledge, and it became something that Autodesk started to talk about in North America as a shining example of taking your entire business, shoving it in the cloud, and leveraging that for future collaboration. This changed the way we think about how we collaborate. It changed the way how we think about our data. Now our data lives in a data lake in the cloud, and we're able to access it for all sorts of things, particularly as sustainability aspirations. As we proceeded on this journey with collaboration, particularly working from home, it was becoming more and more important that our collaboration coordination meetings needed to shift to the cloud. We were becoming increasingly frustrated with Navisworks. I have a catchphrase, Navisworks should be renamed because it doesn't work, so let's just call it Navis, or didn't work. And in 2000 and late 2001, we were gifted an opportunity to beta prototype Revizto Plus. Armin, thank you. Armin, I ignored everything you said, and we used it on live projects from day one. And I know you said only use it on a small project. I actually used it on the country's largest ever project. So not only did I ignore you, I really ignored you. But Revizto Plus changed our life. And I'm going to talk more about that. And I'm going to probably have to speed up. I could probably talk for 30 minutes with an empty paper bag. But our vision going forward from this point, we're really starting to think about how our workflows have changed with Revizto Plus, thinking about ChatGPT, where Midjourney, where AI is taking us. And I hope for the future we can connect AI with the codification system that I'm about to show you, and to make a clash detection meeting a thing of the past, and make our workflows informed about decision-making for coordinated construction projects. It is possible. We're doing it, Warren and Mahoney. We're doing it today, and we have a roadmap of how we want to see it unfold. So what's it look like? Codification of coordination at Warren and Mahoney looks like this. So we start with this dream, this idea. If we can bring knowledge from the back end of the project forward into the design phase, we can then enhance our designs to flow that information through the continuum of the project, right through to the end of the demolition of the project. We've found that the sweet spot is right here. If you start too early, you spin your wheels, you waste time, and time is money in the professional consulting game. If you start before the design is solidified, you can enhance the design with contractors' knowledge, and you can create an ecosystem where knowledge flows and that you can leverage to build from the model, from your design drawings. We also know that the information needs to flow through construction, but as architects and lead consultants, our job stops, or it definitely tapers off a lot in New Zealand when we hit construction. So we like to think of our platform that we're creating as a platform for the contractors to leverage and maintain and be the custodian of through the life of the construction phase. Coordination for us at Warren and Mahoney looks a bit like this. It comes in two halves. I always talk about BIM as being a game of two halves. You've got to play it. BIM is an active doing thing. If you're not doing it, you're not doing it. It's as simple as that. Coordination is the same. We split our coordination into two parts. The digital coordination takes care of the prototyping, the testing, and the nuts and bolts of what the future building's going to look like. What's in these models is where my brain started to go with Revizto Plus. I know from all of my experience across all of my projects that a building is a series of parts. All these parts come together, and in our design information, when it goes to the contractor, it's like a jumble of Lego blocks. They're seeing it for the first time. It's not assembled, it's 2D sheets. It's just like Lego spread out on the floor. But if we can start to organize that information and project that information in a way that resembles their future building, we can then have a better conversation. So we've structured our Revizto environment to systematically organize and collate and share information in a structured way that tells a story about our vision of how this future building comes together. As we got into this process, we really wanted to get into optimizing the coordination. After delivering 300 projects, we were starting to become excited. We were wanting to scale our platform, but we had run out of resources. We're in the depths of COVID. You can't get resources in through a border if the borders are shut. You can't scale up the resources that you already have if they're already fully occupied. So we wanted to work smarter, and Revizto Plus gave us the tool to be smart, really smart. And we had some robust conversations with the teams around how smart we could push this. We wanted to push it as far as we could, but we didn't want to push it off-piste. We wanted to keep it in the flow, to keep the knowledge and the retention of that knowledge through the life of the project. So we sat down with the contractors, we sat down with their specialist trades, their plumbers, worked out what was important to them and how we could optimize our workflow to leverage information for them. We came up with a matrix. We call it the matrix because it feels like you are in the matrix. We live in a virtual world in our advanced BIM team. And what we found was there's about 20, 25 components that need to be coordinated with each other. And these components range in priority and in sequence and in design, program, and development. Off the 25 core components, we've got over 250 individual clash tests that run automatically in Revizto. I was in a presentation yesterday and someone was talking about never use the sync and issue button. We use the sync and issue button. I challenge my team to just roll with it every day. We've perfected our system, we've simplified our system. We came up with a new coding system to allow people to easily identify a high priority coordination item. We decided that we'd also link into that coordination system a classification to inform people at a glance whether it was an item that was a part of the selection set A, selection set B. So at every step you could look at it at a glance, make a decision and move on. The brains behind all of this is our cascading search set methodology. Search sets, holy grail. Oh my God, so good. I don't know how many people out there have used Navisworks. Come on, show me, how many people have had that pain in their life? How many people are reformed? Woo, come on. These search sets in Navisworks, if you've used Navisworks for a while, search sets are a dog. Search sets in Revizto are so good. I have people in my team that have never used Navisworks before, so they have to believe me how horrible Navisworks was. We have conversations in our team, like we'll make a change to these cascading search sets with our methodology. 2 clicks of the mouse, we've made a change to the entire project. We've influenced 150 people on a project with 3 clicks of the mouse. I cannot overstate how important it is to create these cascading search sets and to think deeply about what's important. Something else that we do is we use the new zones feature. Oh my God, like seriously, who would have thought that zones weren't important in the world of construction? We make 3D buildings, we have coordination issues that exist in a 3D world. We want to sort it in 3D. We don't want to sit in a room aimlessly looking at something that's in the bottom of the building when we're trying to do the top of the building. So we make these zones, the simple 3D forms, we divide them up into a stratosphere. We have a priority rating around our zones. Things like service corridors, service risers, they have a high priority. They're complex, they need to come together. Things that are related to GPOs, you call them GPOs, outlets, they're not as high priority, so we put them in a different zone, and we're not worried about those as much. Something else that I really like with Revizto is the stamps. I like the original issue tool, but I love stamps. Stamps give us an ability to quickly communicate where the issue is and who the issue is responsible for, or who's responsible for that issue. Something else that I like about the stamps is they have little indicators that tell you if they're a new stamp or if it's a stamp that's closed or solved. Stamp it like it's hot. We use them with these heat maps. There's a little heat map down the bottom there, and we do our reporting on these heat maps. We've found that it's really important for the knowledge of the people of my era to be able to get into the model in a means that's traditional to themselves. And sometimes the 2D format is the best, and they can click on the issue, see it in 3D, and they can have that conversation to resolve it. We create these organic dashboards. These organic dashboards became our tool to gamify coordination. Armin wanted to bring gaming technology to construction. I wanted to gamify construction. These dashboards gamify it. I've worked in coordination meetings now where the sub-trades and our consultants are challenging each other to best themselves to close out their to-do list. They come into the meeting and they go, I'm all done, Jace. And I'm like, cool, short meeting's a good meeting. See you next week. And that's where we feel coordination should sit. We shouldn't have to talk about what each other has to do. We should talk about the other problems that we're trying to solve. We piggyback this on an automation cycle. Our automation cycle is a weekly cycle. We run our work in progress models up to the cloud every night, so the information's up to date and on people's fingertips every morning. We run our coordination sessions and our clash detection weekly, so we give people time to understand where the issues are and then resolve those issues. So we keep this weekly flow. It's important to understand that it's a parallel workflow. It's important to understand that it's an automated workflow. Our automated workflow became so awesome, we actually named it. We called it SAM. And everyone in the business is like, who's the Sam? Like my MD, he's like, who's Sam? And I'm like, it's the hardest work. He works 24/7, works weekends, never complains. And if he's tired, we reboot him. We've loved the Appearance Profiler. What I love about the Appearance Profiler is the ability to share information in the eyes of the people we're sharing it with. We can colorify our codification of the coordination, so it's important to the fire contractor, it's important to the plumber. He can see exactly what he needs to see without the confusion of everybody else's stuff. And to be able to put it in a simple drop-down list where they can click on it and just see their information their way with their issues has transformed the way we have the conversations on site. I briefly talked about the issue filters. We use a similar process with issue filters. We're really trying hard to put the information at people's fingertips. So we create like a snag list, a pre-list of coordination issues. And I can quickly touch on an example of what this looks like in a real-life building. This building here was special. This was our first Revizto Plus project. To my knowledge, this was the first real-life Revizto Plus project in the world. It's a life sciences retrofit to an existing heritage building. The existing heritage building is 200 years old or thereabouts. A big component of the retrofit was a 1960s-ish concrete frame building that was being changed from an administration building to a life sciences teaching laboratory, and then it had a couple of infill projects to it. What's important is we weren't the architects on this. We were engaged as independent BIM coordinators by the client. They recognized our skill and our ability in this space was superior, and they wanted to share it with their teams even though we weren't the architects. So we took on the challenge and we worked with the team. What's important to understand with the team is the contractor had never done BIM before, and the lead architect had never done BIM before. And we were bringing all of this knowledge to them for the very first time. It was the very first time they had experienced Revizto. Some of the team members, they had worked through our process before, but through the power of Revizto, we were able to share a new way of working and onboard them into a full collaborative BIM environment in weeks. This is something that I've never been able to do before, and I'm confident that I could not have done it without Revizto. It was such a pleasure to see the lead architect, who was an advocate for ArchiCAD for many years. 20 years ago, I convinced him on ArchiCAD. 20 years later, I'm convincing him on Revizto. He's our strongest spokesperson in Dunedin for this way of working. he now prefers to access everything via Revizto. He can see all of his coordination items, all of his to-do list at his fingertips on his iPad. It's changed his life. And now we have a clash-free model that's being able to be leveraged by the contractor much earlier in the design process, but also lending their insight into the buildability and practicality of how we assemble this on site later. One of the key components that we used to communicate this clash-free information with was our dashboards. We set our dashboards up, we extracted it straight from Revizto, but we set up some view templates in RevUP. We export the floor plans out in 2D. Then we just save them out as PDFs. We shove them in InDesign. We create these little reports. They're pretty cool little reports because they create a snapshot in time, but more importantly, they communicate where the team is at. And it fosters a conversation with the team that as these reports come out weekly, we're improving. One of the things the project manager and the client liked was the line histogram chart in Revizto. It was a very simple conversation to describe to the project manager earlier on in the design process. If the line's going up, the team are working on creating a design. And what we should expect to see is the line flatten as we get into the development of the design and we've got all the components in the model. So it'll flatten. And as we're starting to refine and coordinate the project, we should see the line drop off. And it became this challenge, and there was a constant conversation with the project manager and the design team. The line's going up. Have we finished designing yet? And the design team were like, no, the client's still changing their mind. And then the line started to flatten off, and then the conversation with the project manager changed to, when are we going to see the line go down? And then as the line tipped down, the conversation going, looks like it's all working. And I'm like, there's a plan in place in the project. The client made a design change and the line spiked and he's like, what's the line spiking for? Oh, you remember that change you made last week? Oh yeah, we shifted the plant room. Well, there's the impact of shifting the plant room late in the design phase. Oh, I get it. And those kind of conversations are transformational, especially when they start to ripple throughout the industry. So in summary, before Revizto, we used to have a BIM coordinator to a project. It was their full-time role to kind of identify clashes in Navisworks, to create those horrible reports, to work through those reports like, look at this, column in a doorway, woo. It was a painful experience. And we had a high staff turnover in this experience. That's monotonous, it's boring. Post-Revizto, not only did we add new team members to our team, Sam, he popped up everywhere. We have like 8 Sams in our team. We have 4 real people in our team. We leverage that automation to empower our team members to sit at a higher level. We're not in the weeds of the coordination issue. We're controlling the flow of information and ensuring that the right people have the right information at the right time to make an informed decision to move the design forward, to prepare the design at a higher level that the contractors can leverage it. So, thank you.